Guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to be doing part 2 of a video I did yesterday titled, My Wife of Nearly 3 Years Has Done Unthinkable Things, Now 6 Weeks Out of D-Day, Please Help Me. And guys, like I said, this is part 2 of the video I did yesterday. And as a quick recap, this is a story where a guy, he discovers that his wife was hosting and participating in events with multiple guys without him being there or his knowledge, both outside the home and in his home. And when he eventually finds out about this, obviously this guy's really hit hard about this, as you can certainly understand and appreciate. He confronts her on this and finds out, obviously all this, and basically he is now on the path towards divorce. Speaking to an attorney, and of course she's breaking down crying because this guy is the provider. This guy, he's a hardworking husband, takes care of her. He's been married to her for 3 years. She got married when she was 22, and he was obviously a few years older. And I warned about getting married when you're too young, and a lot of this crap seems to happen to the young people that get married. And now the story, part 1 ended where basically the girl wants to go to counseling and all that because she wants to save the marriage because obviously this guy's the meal ticket. And this guy's really wondering, was it something that I did? Am I at fault for her doing this? A whole whirlwind of emotions, which is certainly understandable. So we're now going into part 2 here. And obviously I couldn't use certain words I used in the other video, guys, because guess what? Surprise, surprise. YT flagged my video yesterday, so I had to make some changes in the title and also the description and the picture that you guys saw. And you'll notice a difference today, but it is what it is. It's a pain in the ass, but it is what it is. So I'm going to jump right into his story, part 2. He says, days after the initial post, I took your guys' advice and made a few appointments with attorneys and one with a legal document preparation laid to keep my options open. My wife had no knowledge of those meetings. For your information, we went a few days after the post with no contact directly, but she was adamant that this time she was going to make an effort to get us in to see a marriage therapist, which I had been insisting upon for months before my D-Day, so we can try to see if there's any way of working through this. But I knew in my heart what my choice would inevitably be. So how interesting that this guy, who, again, if you watch the first video, this guy obviously is a really good guy. He's hardworking. He cares about her, treats her really well. And obviously, you know from the first video how much disrespect she was showing him before he found out about what was going on behind the scenes. But obviously, he knew there was a problem before this whole thing went down and was trying to get her to marriage counseling. So this guy was really trying to make things work. But she obviously wasn't interested in marriage counseling. But now that this guy knows about what happened and he wants her out, now she's interested in marriage counseling. Isn't that interesting? But after everything that happened in the previous video, there ain't no going back. But you're going to see as we go on here what happens. He says, she did succeed in getting us into a therapist schedule, but it was going to be about a week and a half until we could get in. During that time, I was literally stalking her every move from that damned iPad. I was obsessing over it, watching every message come and go, checking Facebook, Snapchat, everything I possibly could. After a week and a half of scrutinizing every move she made digitally, I really had no further evidence. Well, that's because she was being extremely careful at that point in time. And I thought perhaps that she was showing true remorse. When it finally came time to see the therapist, he sat us down, asked us why we were there, and I told her to tell him the story in her own words. I'm sure that's going to be quite a story. She left out some of the details, but most of it was there out on the table. The therapist turns his head to me after hearing all this and asks me, how does it make you feel about your trust in her? Are you kidding me? And obviously for you guys that saw the first video, what she was doing. Can you imagine the details of her telling this to the therapist? And again, I mentioned this before, him trying to keep a straight face, hearing these stories. Good Lord. And then going to this guy, well, how does this make you feel about the future of the relationship? What, are you kidding me, dude? After all this, and it was going on with guys that were supposed to be his friends, his soccer teammates, there's no going back. He says, how does this make you feel, blah, blah, blah. I just shook my head in disbelief and shock. And instead of answering the question, I replied, if I don't say it out loud right now, I'm afraid I never will. He says, there's no coming back from this for me. This marriage is over. Good for this guy. The vows were broken, my trust is shattered, and I think the only thing left is to get a divorce. My gut wrenched, and she completely blew up into hysterical crying. Of course. I continued, I don't know what can be salvaged from this relationship, but the marriage is over. I meant what I said on the altar, and I'm not being true to myself. If I don't recognize this as being broken, unfixable. At that point, I felt a slight sense of relief, having stated out loud in front of her and a neutral party that I was done. I bet that was hard. Again, we can all watch this and be like, oh, I would do this. Da, 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 da. Until you're in that situation and you've been with somebody that long and have the feelings going through, you can't say 100%, okay? I'm sure many guys watching this have been through tough times and cheating and all that, but when it's this guy's story, which is an extremely crazy situation, none of us could probably say, unless you've been through it, what it's like. But for this guy to basically, even though his heart was wrenched and screwed up, his gut was all, going crazy. Good for him for doing what he has to do, sticking to his gun, in spite of her getting hysterical and crying and all that. Had to be very hard. He says, the remainder of the therapist appointment was spent on him explaining to her why my feelings and my decision were completely rational given the situation and calming her down. It actually couldn't have gone better in my opinion. He insisted upon seeing us not as a couple, but separately, to see if he could help us as individuals at first, and maybe on the horizon, perhaps years from now, bring us together for discussion of reconciliation. Get the hell out of here. There is no reconciliation after this, after what happened. I'll say it right now so you don't have to worry. At this point, I don't have even the slightest intention of ever considering reconciliation. But at least in the meantime, the individual therapy might actually do me some good. Now, before I continue, I knew at this point I was about to embark upon a legal journey, which, if not amicable, could be disgustingly ugly and financially devastating to me, the breadwinner in a no-fault state. Ouch. I've written all this legal process out, but I'm omitting until things are locked in. Too risky to post online at the moment. The overarching point of the legal process is that I have to keep things amicable right now. So again, he's in a no-fault state. This guy did everything right, and still after her indiscretions, she could end up walking away from this thing pretty well off. That is the biggest load of crap. And things like this is why so many guys in today's world that are knowledgeable of this are not getting married. And why I encourage you guys in today's world, as things are, like that and many other things, don't do it. Are there exceptions? Are there some women in this world that are rare unicorns, if you will, that are traditional and things like that? Yes, but good luck finding them. It's rare. But even then, you got to be careful. That's why if you're going to get married, and I recommend you don't in today's world, but if you do, lots of measures need to be taken in advance. And you all know about that. He says, this is where it gets really interesting here. Let's fast forward roughly a week and a half. By now, we both had at least one individual therapy session each, and her narrative to her entire family is that we're ending the marriage because of the breaking of vows. But we're both trying to heal ourselves right now. She's still staying with family, and I continue my obsession and constantly searching her digital presence for any sign that she was continuing her disgusting habits, as many of you have suggested that she would. Not saying it's your fault, I would have been searching anyway. It wasn't until one night last week that I realized there was a place I hadn't checked ever before. And he says, the App Store. I went to the app download history of the iCloud account and saw that almost 2 weeks prior to that evening, she had downloaded a secret texting app on her phone. Aha. My gut wrenched, and I realized in one foul swoop that this entire time she's gone out of her way to hide some sort of messaging from me, knowing I had her iPad, which she insisted upon me keeping so I can begin to trust her again. But I really think to this day that she didn't realize that an app downloaded on one iCloud device can be seen in the history from any iCloud connected device. I need to know what the communications were within that app. I wasn't even in control of my body thinking back to those moments. I downloaded the app onto her iPad, tried a few of her most common login combos, and Viola, the truth. She not only has been messaging Buddy on this app since after our first therapy appointment together, but they have been continuing to have sex with one another during times in which she knew I'd be out of the area. I puked, I cried. It was 3 in the morning on a weeknight. So during the whole time when she's trying to convince him that she's not doing these type of things anymore and she wants to make the marriage work, meeting with the counselor, on this secret app that this guy discovered, she's still talking to this guy that she was, the one particular guy that she was obviously having fun with. And she's still continuing her indiscretions with this guy and probably the other members of the group as well. So she's completely full of crap. I mean, I feel bad for this guy. I mean, it's a mess. But we will see eventually this guy will pull through. It goes on. I went to the restroom and started grabbing all the prescription strength medications I could find. I went back in my room with an overflowing handful of assorted pills that without a doubt would have been effective in ending my life. I sat on the edge of my bed, sobbing, ready to end it. I picked up my phone and tried to call my mom, no answer. My dad, no answer. My sister, she answered. I told her what I had just discovered through violent outbursts of tears, and she could tell I was on the verge of losing it. Damn, dude. I'm sorry it happened, but ending it is not the answer. Guys, never end... Make this clear. Nobody's worth you ending it, okay? I get the pain, believe me, but nobody's worth it, okay? And in this situation, this woman, no way. You can get through it. You'll survive. This too shall pass, and you'll come out stronger in the end, which this guy does. Says here, she didn't know I had the pills in my hand, but she did insist keeping me on the phone in the middle of the night until I calmed down. It took about an hour, but I was finally numb again, and after hanging up the phone, I went back to the bathroom and poured the pills back into one of the bottles, washed my hands, then returned to bed to try to get at least a couple hours of sleep that never came. As hours passed, I realized that I needed to go to work. I couldn't stand to be in the house or that moment any longer. As I got dressed, I threw the bottle of pills into my briefcase along with the iPad, both of which, upon arrival at my office, I promptly gave to my most trusted coworker and asked him to lock in the desk and not return them to me no matter what. No questions asked. He obliged and gave me an understanding pat on the shoulder as I walked away. Yeah, I mean, it's like this guy's gathering the information on the iPad about her, which he's going to need to help him along, and you're going to see this, but it's tearing him apart. So obviously right now, best to put that thing away so you can start to heal a little bit. He says, so now I've done it. I got what I was looking for, what I've been searching for, undeniable proof that not only is my wife a cheater, but she's also a cold-blooded liar. I struggled for days on end, trying to decide what to do with the information I discovered. On one hand, I wanted so badly to call her out every possible family member, friend, or acquaintance, and let the whole world know what she truly is, what she had done, and what she was continuing to do, but I couldn't. I already have the process underway for ending the marriage, but there's still a time window where she could choose to get nasty and costly. As days went by, and more texts, calls, and attempts to communicate with me went unanswered, she finally went out of her way to stop by and check on me. I about lost my shit. During the encounter, I was purposely very vague and seemingly indifferent to her. Good way to go. I didn't know exactly what to do. It wasn't until she lost her temper and started yelling at me for acting weird that I gave her a chance and asked her point blank, have you had any contact with Buddy whatsoever since that night? Her response, no. I blocked him on everything. I asked again, are you sure about that? She adamantly proclaimed that she hadn't, and that he was gross and she would never do that to me. Oh my God. She is something. I noticed that she had the nerve to get mad at him and give him a hard time and say that he's acting weird after everything that she pulled. Good Lord. You know, the guy, he was 30 years old when he wrote this. And even though this has been tearing him apart, the good thing is, the silver lining to all this is that he gets her out of his life. And he's 30 years old, and he has a whole life ahead of him. I'd kill to be 30 years old again. And with this unfortunate thing that happened, he can gain all this knowledge and have a great life for himself. As opposed to being, say, if he was 50 years old and discovered that she'd been doing this for 25, 30 years. I mean, it doesn't take away the pain, but this guy, after all this is said and done, can really have a good life and not have her in it. He says, I'm going to continue. He says, then I dropped the bomb. So what about this app? And what about this video? I took on my phone of that app, showing the conversations you two have been having this whole time. The picture you sent one another, the plans you made to sneak around based on my daily schedule. She collapsed onto the ground. Here we go. She collapsed onto the ground, sobbing, crying, begging me for what I don't know. I kept my tone indifferent. And this is, you're going to love this. He says here, so here's what's going to happen. I'm not going to tell anyone about this. In exchange, you're not going to fight me at all about anything in the divorce process. I'm going to be fair, even though I shouldn't have to be. But you're going to be served with the divorce papers, and then do nothing with them. Otherwise, people will have to know about the situation and why it is that I'm being so unreasonable. Your choice. She left, and 2 days later, she was served. Nice job, dude. Good job. And I bet in a way it was hard for him to stay indifferent. I'm sure part of him wanted to blow up and carry on, which would have been the worst thing he could do, because then she can come back and say, oh, he was yelling at me and being abusive and all this stuff like that. The guy kept calm. And now he's got leverage. So even though he was watching that iPad and it was tearing him apart, having to watch and see all that stuff, he got some good dirt that will help him get the terms he wants in the divorce. So it was worth it. Since that day, I've kept my word, and I haven't told anyone outside of my immediate family members, but I know for a fact, and he says, by my iPhone, she has visited him every single night since then at the house where he lives with his mother. This guy lives with his mom. Meanwhile, this guy, the guy telling the story, has his own job, makes money, has his own place, but this guy who she's fooling around with and the other dudes, he's living with his mama. He says her family thinks that she's going to AA meetings every single night, but my screenshots of her location during the meetings prove otherwise. Seriously, why the F hasn't she changed her iCloud password? That's what I'm thinking here. This guy can keep snooping in on what she's doing. You think that she would have the intelligence to get a different password and change everything over, but she hasn't. Cuckoo. I don't know why I keep compiling the evidence, but I do. I struggle right now with the anxiety of waiting for this period of time to pass until her right to fight me in court has passed, all the while knowing her family thinks she's on the right path, when that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, she's lying to every single one of them. What hurts me the most right now is the injustice of it. She gets to be around people, her family, and act like everything is up on the up and up every day, and run off each night to have sex with him and sneak home in the middle of the night to keep up appearances. All the while, I go to work each day, head home to an empty, mentally haunting house, and experience how it truly feels to be alone in every sense of the word. My friend, I know you're going through the hard time now, but believe me, I know how this story ends, but he's going to come out on top. And believe me, karma is a bitch. And I guarantee you, if it isn't happening by his own hand, one way or another in life, karma will come back to get her. Trust me on this. I'm past the feeling of ever considering self-harm. Good, dude. But these are dark days nonetheless. I'm taking everything hour by hour, day by day, until the day comes I have the reassurance of knowing I'll make it out of this hell without my finances being destroyed and officially able to completely leave her in the dust. What I'll do from there, I truly do not know. I'm just trying to survive until that moment comes. Take it day by day. And guys, any of you guys watching this, wherever you are in the world, listening to this story, and if you're going through something like this, it's all about getting through the day. That's it. You get through the day, next day should be a little better, and get through that day and so forth. And it even breaks it down to getting through the hour. Okay, you will get through this. And those of you guys who have been through something not like this, but a bad situation, you all know it will pass. You take it day by day, you have supportive family and friends, you'll get there. Don't give up. Thank you all for reading and for your concern, advice, wisdom, and the courage you've given me. My one outlet in a time of nothing but feels completely shut out by the world. I may not know a single thing about you, but I trust you more than I trust my wife without a shadow of a doubt. Thank you. He's referring to the people on Reddit they wrote this story to. So guys, part 3, which will come tomorrow because I'm doing a part every day, things are going to start turning around for this guy. And it's great. And you're going to hear more about the divorce process and all that, but the point is this. Like I said before, this guy was seriously thinking about ending it all. No one's worth it. You can get through it. Seek your friends, seek your family, even your religion, that's what you're into, you will get through it, But the point is this, good for this guy for having the sense to pay attention to more what she was doing. He never hurt him because he got this dirt on her, and now that can help definitely in the divorce process. But anyhow, guys, I will continue on the story part 3 tomorrow, and it starts to get even better for this guy. You'll enjoy it because I know a lot of you guys watched this video yesterday, really enjoyed it. But that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below and know what you think about this, and be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you tomorrow with this story.